Some college football coaches are not happy with the way Colorado and Coach Deion Sanders are going about with the transfer portal and how they're running the program. Some are more outspoken than others, but a lot have voiced their opinions on how he is doing this. So let's talk about exactly what is going on at Colorado or what the coaches are saying. And we're going to discuss all of that today on the Coach Steve Show. Make sure you like and subscribe to YouTube channel. Follow Ray on Apple and iTunes. We got to get those numbers up, so please leave a review there. Leave a comment in the comment section down below as well. So let's get into it. Coach Pat Narduzzi, he's the head coach at Pitt. He is outspoken on the transfer portal and how Coach Deion Sanders is going about it. Other coaches are kind of keeping to themselves, or they try to keep it anonymous. He shared his thoughts. Now, this is not the first time he has been outspoken on the transfer portal. He thinks there was tampering with his wide receiver that went to USC, after Lincoln Riley got there. He very vocal about it. He's not too worried about hiding anything. This is what he had to say. That's not the way it's meant to be, Narduzzi told Marcel at ACC spring meetings. That's not what the transfer portal rule intended to be. It was not to overhaul your roster. We'll see how it works out, but that to me looks bad on college football coaches across the country. The reflection is on one guy right now, but when you look at it overall, those kids that have moms and dads and brothers and sisters and goals in life, I don't know how many of those 70 that left really wanted to leave, or they were kicked in the butt to get out. So he said that, and he said that he's hinting at it's all over college football. But the number one person that we hear about and the number one place we are hearing about is Colorado and Coach Deion Sanders. So he's very outspoken on that. The program at Colorado has seen 51 scholarship players enter the transfer portal since he took over the program. He replaced that production by adding 47 players and counting in the transfer portal market, by far the most turnover that we have seen since the NCAA. I grew up in a profession that you can't tell a guy that he has to leave based on athletic ability, Narduzzi said. I think he'll be shocked that he probably had some pretty good football players in that room. When I got to Pitt back in 2015, I didn't kick anybody off. Zero. Those are our guys. When you become a head coach, you inherit that team and you coach that team. If somebody wants to leave, that's great. You don't kick them out. I disagree with that whole process. That's why I got into the game. This is not the first time he's been critical. Coach Narduzzi said in 2022, the wide receiver, Jordan Addison, when he transferred to USC, he heard that USC might have been tampering, and he said something about all that. So he's outspoken about the whole transfer portal. I think he's more about the transfer portal, but I think he's using Coach Deion Sanders as like the way to get everybody's attention, because right now we're talking about it right here. That's what everybody's talking about to bring attention to it. So let's talk about what he's saying and talk about what's happening in college football. I get what he's saying. I understand what Coach Narduzzi is saying. He's saying that, he's thinking before the transfer portal. He's thinking you got to a place, you're a head new football coach, you inherit those guys. You're going to recruit your guys into your program to figure out what you want to do for your offense, your defense. But until then, you have to adapt to what you have. It's very similar. And a way to look at it is like a high school coach. When you're a high school coach, every year you just kind of inherit what you get. Some schools are very lucky to get this talent that comes in, and some don't. So when you're a brand new head football coach in college football, especially back in the day, when you showed up, that's what you have. So you're an air raid team and you come in and you want to run the air raid, you're going to run it, but you may have to adapt a little bit to what you have. If you have guys that can run the football a little more, maybe you run the football a little more. You know what I'm saying? That's what he's thinking. And he's thinking and talking about what the transfer portal was really supposed to be about, which we all kind of knew. It stemmed from, well, college football coaches get to leave whenever they want, so why can't college football players leave whenever they want, right? That's what it stemmed from. College coaches can leave whenever they want. College football players need to be able to leave whenever they want. Now, there's always a trade-off, and there's always different sides to this. College football coaches, especially at the big-time level, they can leave whenever they want because the schools will let them do that because in order for that coach to coach at their school, there has to be a big buyout because they want some type of job security. Because coaches can get fired year two if they, for some reason, don't live up to the standards, something happens. But on that contract, there's a big payout. Now, do I think it's overdone a lot? Yes. Paying $18 million to leave, that's a lot. But they want that big buyout because they want the job security. That's why they say it's 5-year contract. Well, it's really never a 5-year contract because they want the job security. So that's why they want the big buyout. But if they leave, they don't get that big buyout. When they leave, sometimes they have to pay back. Or when they leave, they know, hey, you were getting paid to this point. You're not over longer going to get paid to this point. But if you're going to be able to here's the trade-off. If you're allowed to leave whenever you want, now, no, you're going to get fired. You can get fired whenever you want, especially assistant coaches. So I talked about this before. That's where the transfer portal stemmed from. So the goodness in everybody's mind for the transfer portal was that's where it stemmed from. And it stemmed from, it just allowed players to have some freedom. It allowed players to, if their head coach were to leave, their assistant coach, their offensive coordinator were to leave, it just gave them another opportunity. Something happens. Maybe they need to get to a school that's closer to home. Those are the goodness thoughts that we have with the transfer portal. But that's not how the world works. Since there's no real leadership for NCAA, there's nothing coming from the government. Nothing good can come from the government. I don't know if you want the federal government to really come in and really control everything here, but this is where this is happening. I've said this before. If you want the players to become employees because they make the school money, cool. I want them to get paid for the name, image, and likeness. But if the college football players want a seat at that table, then they have to be ready for some coaches, not all coaches, everybody's going to have their different way of doing things. You have to be ready to get fired. You have to be ready to say, hey, because when a head football coach comes in, he might interview the assistants that are there. I've seen head football coaches come in, they'll keep 1 or 2 assistants, but when a head football coach gets fired, all the assistants should be prepared that they're fired too. Why? The head coach brings in his guys. When a new athletic director comes in, maybe secretaries and everything don't get fired, but certain people might because they're bringing in their own people. That's what happens. So if the college athletes want to be treated and they want the same level, equity, everything about equality as the head coaches, this is what's going to happen. Especially when there's nobody really controlling this and it's just wild and it's just going crazy. So if they want to be adults and they are going to be, quote unquote employees, I'm not saying I agree with everything, but we don't have to agree with everything because there's no rules. There's no broken laws. He's not doing anything wrong. It doesn't say that he can't do this, this, and this. If there was a rule saying you could only get rid of 10 players or bring in this many, transfer, whatever, yeah, then he'd be breaking it. But guess what? This is what happened when people wanted to get the college athletes to get paid, which I want, but then you mix that with this transfer portal. This is what's happening. I understand what Coach Narduzzi is saying. I agree with what he's saying, but there's nothing to stop anything from happening. Nothing at all. Lincoln Riley did this. Now, he didn't do it to the level of Colorado, but there's nothing stopping him. And so players, you got to be ready to be fired. If you're getting name, image, and likeness money, if it's coming from the thing, it's coming from the collective through the school, just like a head coach and assistant coaches, when they don't perform and they don't do what they need to do, they get fired. So as college athletes, we just kind of said, okay, you get the scholarship. Now, the scholarship could be taken away, but most likely you don't really see that all the time. It can be, but you don't see it all the time because you give them chances. But now that you have the scholarship, plus they're getting paid, and then maybe a kid comes into the portal that wants to go to this school that might be better than this kid, well, they're going to go get that kid. So be ready. If college football coaches, if you want to be treated like them, they can get fired. They can leave whenever they want, but they can be fired. And that's what we're seeing with Colorado was, especially after the spring game, you did not perform up to this, so you have a choice. You could stay here and not play or leave. And that's it. So be prepared to get fired. And that is what has happened with this transfer portal. And that's just it because there's no rules. I've said it a million times. It's the Wild West because there is no leadership to stop this. I agree with what Coach Narduzzi is saying. You want for example, I'm an Illinois fan. They didn't have a lot of people leave to the transfer portal. Coach Bielema said it on 670. He said there were some players, maybe they wanted to leave, but he didn't tell them to leave because they're there, they're going to coach them. And that's his style. And I respect it. Coach Bielema's the guy. Coach Sanders has a different way of thinking. And guess what? We have to respect that way of thinking because there's nothing that he's not breaking any rules. There's no laws, there's no rules that he is breaking. If that's the way he wants to run his program, that's the way he's going to run his program. Coach Bielema is going to run his way. Coach Pat Narduzzi is going to run his way. Coach Deion Sanders is going to run his that way. But he is more in the spotlight because of the amount of numbers and the transfer stuff. Lincoln Riley did it when he went to USC. He brought a lot of guys in and got rid of a lot of guys. Other coaches out there are getting rid of a lot of guys that we're probably not talking about. But I said this before when this happened. This type of thing is going to continue to happen until we get a handle on it. But until we get a handle on it, you're going to see coaches start firing guys because they want to be treated like the college football staff. This is what's going to happen. You don't perform like the NFL. Let's get you ready for the NFL then. If you want to play in the NFL, get ready for it because you don't perform well, you get cut and you don't get paid. So this is the route that college football is going. And we understand why the transfer portal was made. The goodness that we all understand and the goodness that we know why. But if there's no legislation, there's no rules, there's no leadership in the NCAA, this is what's going to happen in college football, and this is the route we're going down. And that's why I said we got to be ready for college football one day to become the Power 2 conference that looks like the NFL. If these guys can move around like free agents, this is what's going to happen. And be prepared if these two power conferences, if they can make enough money, for the schools to break away from the academic side, and it really becomes a minor league system for the NFL, and it really starts to look like just college football and free agencies and moving around and the transfer portal and everything else. This is what's about to happen to college football, so we need to be prepared. And yes, we could hate on what maybe Coach Sanders is doing, but he's not breaking any rules. There's nothing wrong with what he's doing. And that's the way he wants to run his program. So respect the way he wants to run his program. We haven't seen if it's going to work or not, but we got to respect the way he's doing it and just kind of let it go. We just need to let it go. Thank you guys again for watching and or listening. Make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow Ray on Apple and iTunes. Follow at Coach_Steve72 on Twitter. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Thank you guys again. Check out all the affiliates, and we will see you guys next time.